So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 different methods that you can use to dry age your venison, as well as the tools that I use when I age my venison. So the first method that we use is hanging our deer quartered in an older refrigerator. This method works really well if you're in a warm environment and you want to be able to control the temperature. The temperature needs to stay between 32 degrees and 40 degrees. You want to hang the venison up in a way that it's going to have air circulation around the meat. What I also like to do is monitor the meat every couple days, open the refrigerator, get some fresh air in there, make sure that the refrigerator is staying cool so you don't run into a situation where the refrigerator breaks or you have issues with it being too cold and freezing the meat. The second method that I like to use is just hanging the deer in either an old outbuilding, could be a barn, garage, or my specific method is hanging it in my basement. My basement's unheated, it's off the section of the house. You have some insulation from being underground with the ground around it, so it keeps it warmer than freezing overnight, but it also stays cool enough during the day to where the meat's not getting to too warm of a level. I do have to watch the temperature. If it gets too warm outside, my temperature inside the basement will warm up to a point to where it can damage the meat or spoil the meat. But that's a really good method, is just leaving it hang. You can do outside, but you're going to be a lot more reliant on the temperature, and it's going to be hard to get a good 7 to 10 days outside aging with that consistent temperature of between 32 degrees and 40 degrees. So the third method is using a walk-in cooler. And for a lot of us, that's probably going to be unpractical. I don't have an extra thousands of dollars worth of space to buy a walk-in cooler just to age my venison. But one thing that's really neat that guys are starting to use to convert a space into a walk-in cooler is a device called a CoolBot. And what that does is you can use an air conditioner and create a walk-in cooler with some insulation and some walls to where the CoolBot will allow the air conditioner to run below regular temperatures and get to that 32, 40 degree temperature range. This is something I am really seriously considering. I think it would be awesome to convert a section of my basement into a walk-in freezer so that I can age my venison for years to come. The fourth method of dry aging your venison is you can quarter the deer out and put it in your regular refrigerator. I've seen some guys do this on YouTube. I have a family of 4 kids and our refrigerator space is pretty valuable. So I don't think my wife would be too happy if I was using that to throw 3 or 4 quarters of a deer into the fridge to dry age it. So you're better off having an old fridge in your basement or in your garage that you can age and not take up your valuable real estate in your refrigerator. But if it's something that you want to try before investing or buying an extra fridge or building some sort of a walk-in cooler, it might be worth it for you to try it, just at least to see the difference that it makes in the tenderness of the meat and the taste. This is something I've never tried, but I've seen other guys do it with good success. So I wanted to try it this year, and happened by chance. We killed 2 deer on the same day, so it was perfect. One got quartered out, the other one hung, left the hide on, gave it about 12, 13 days. And the biggest difference between having the hide on versus off is you lose a lot more meat, the outside of the deer, when you quarter it out or have the hide off. It gets dehydrated, it turns black, and you have to cut that all off. It's not really edible. Where the hide protects the meat, keeps the moisture level up. Also, it's going to help insulate the meat if you have those really cold days, or if the temperature warms up, it's just going to help mediate the overall temperature of the deer. So it works well if you're hanging it outside or in the basement like I did. One of the cons to the hide on, well, there's a couple cons, but one of the downsides to leaving the hide on is it's a lot harder to get off. And I was really struggling getting the hide off, but it was worth it, absolutely. So I think that's going to be my preferred method. The other downside is where I had shot the deer, there was some blood and some junk, and it actually spread on the deer, and I had lost some additional meat from leaving the hide on, where had I took the hide off that night, I would have seen that there was some potential for spoilage. I would have quartered it out, washed it off, and it would have saved some of that meat. So the other con is you can't see if you have some sort of contamination when the hide's on that's going to spread or make the meat spoil in a certain area. So be aware of that too when you're leaving the hide on. Your back straps are already more tender than the overall deer. You do not need to age those as long, or if you're going to age them, cut them off, clean them out, especially if it's hide off, and put them in a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware container and wet age them in your fridge. You lose so much meat, especially at this time frame, about the 12 to 13 day mark. Lost a lot of meat on the tenderloin, and that just makes me sad losing that amount of meat on one of my favorite cuts of meat on a deer. So bonus tip there to save more meat. Another thing to take in consideration is how long you should age your deer. I'm going to show a chart. Now this is for different species, but the same concept applies for venison. I've had guys comment on the other video I did that they do for 21 days or 30 days or 45 days. Most of the benefit from aging your deer comes in the first week. You have rigor mortis set in, the meat starts to toughen, and then it's a declining scale for the tenderness of the meat. You get most of the benefits within the first 7 to 10 days. From there, the tenderness benefit is minimal. So you want to age for at least that 7-day period, but don't feel like you need to go 3 or 4 weeks. I found a sweet spot to be about 10 days to 14 days. So you kill your deer on a weekend, you can go into the next weekend, cut it up on a Sunday or something, or midweek, or make it to the following week if your temperature is good and you have that good controlled environment. Some of the tools you'll need to age your venison, and I'll leave links to all of these tools in the comments section. The first is meat hooks. So especially if you're going to be quartering your deer out and hanging in the refrigerator, you don't want the meat laying on shelves or touching each other or up against the edge of the refrigerator. Hook the meat hook in the venison, hang it up so you get full air circulation all around the venison. The second tool, which is super helpful and really benefited me this year, is a Wi-Fi thermometer. This allowed me to monitor my temperature of my deer, of my basement while I was at work. I could watch the weather, watch the temperature outside, see the differential, and then it enabled me or allowed me to see that the temperature was going to get to a too warm of a level. And I actually ended up having to leave work early that day and process it because I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it into the next day, which would have been a Saturday, and when I ultimately wanted to harvest or process and butcher my deer. But I ended up doing it a day early because of the temperature. I would also recommend using the thermometer inside your refrigerator as long as you have good enough or a strong enough connection for your Wi-Fi. We've had 2 old refrigerators fail on us when we're aging our meat. And the third and final tool, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm really looking forward to evaluating using it, is the CoolBot if you wanted to build your own walk-in refrigerator. And I'll put a link to that in the comments for you to check out if it's practical for your situation. I hope this video was super helpful. If you're interested in my other dry aging video, I'll put a link to that in the comments below, and have a great day.